next week, right after the service, there's going to be a business meeting, the quarterly business meeting. So, and in terms of ways to give, you can give online. Tithes and offerings, there's plates in the back there, and that helps us move forward this service. So those are the announcements for today. And so now the main thrust of our service today, we're welcoming up the Andrianoffs, Dave and Jean here, who are going to talk to us about Thailand. And thank you so much for being part of our service today.
That's what I was going to ask about.
Yeah.
If this is being recorded, I guess I can't move it down there, which is where I'd rather be. I'd rather be with you, but that's all right. I can mess with it. It's okay. Quite all right. So, yeah, it's great to be with you. It's what an honor. Thank you for this privilege of sharing a little bit of our lives with you this morning. Jean will share. I'll turn it over to her after a bit. I want to start with reading Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. We need to rely on God's wisdom as we navigate new locations and environments. Most people change locations periodically through their lives. When we get older, we will experience changes. Is the house where we are living adequate for individuals that are aging? Do we have access to the care that we need? What is the best place to live as we approach the end of our days? I assume that you've asked questions like these. In fact, Mike talked about decades of our lives, and we are experiencing that. But if you have not asked these kind of questions, you will likely sometime ask these questions. Jean and I have been together for many years, and I have taken her to places totally outside her comfort zone. Yet there she thrived, often much more than I. For the past 24 years, we have lived in a comfortable home in a peaceful and quiet neighborhood in Port Ludlow, totally within Jean's comfort zone. Now, as we are approaching old age, she is ready to move on. I, on the other hand, have felt that our home was perfect for people getting old. We could live on one level. While we were not formally in a retirement community, the vast majority of our neighbors were retired. I thought we could hire a full-time caregiver who could stay in our ADU. I had it all figured out. But Jean felt we needed to be near our two daughters so that they could oversee our care when we are unable to make certain decisions for ourselves. Since they both live in Bangkok, we moved to Bangkok. We are living there on a temporary basis, 2 years to see if it works for us. You know, just a month before we left, Jean and I were out walking, and Jean said, you know, I thought we would miss our home in the U.S. more than we do. And we're quite comfortable living in Bangkok. Well, except maybe for the heat. So we'll try it out for another year and so and see how it works. Through this process, we are trusting in the Lord our God with all our hearts and are trying to lean on our own understanding, not on our own understanding. We want to permit God to make our paths straight. Now, Jean will show you a little bit about our life in Bangkok. We'll switch these for you.
And where's the clicker?
Oh, the clicker,
Okay.
right here.
All right.
Oops, did I click it?
So I will be narrating this until my voice gives out. I'm at the end of a cold, so if I start coughing, we'll switch. Okay. Where do I point this?
There it is.
Oh, whoops, sorry.
There.
Okay. 9 months ago, we moved to Bangkok, Thailand to be near our 2 daughters who live and work there. Cheryl and her husband David teach at the International School of Bangkok and live near us with their 8-year-old son Eli. Bethany and her husband David are missionaries. Bethany and David live some distance from us in Bangkok, with travel time varying from 40 minutes to several hours, depending on traffic. Their apartment is right beside a stop on the SkyTrain, making it convenient to visit if we head downtown. Cheryl, David, and Eli live about a 15-minute walk from our apartment, or lived about a 15-minute walk, but they will move to a new apartment at the end of the summer. We can still get to them in about the same amount of time, but we'll have to use our golf cart to get there. We were able to provide temporary housing for them during the move. We anticipated adjustment struggles leaving our quiet home in the country to move to an enormous, noisy city. Bangkok ranks about the 12th largest city in the world, with a population of around 12.5 million in the greater metropolitan area. I had 3 conditions for the kind of apartment I hoped we would find: wooden floors, a balcony where I could have plants, a view of greenery, and of course it needed to be near our grandson. But where would we find this kind of place in a densely populated city? The previous year, we had done some exploring of potential places to live and had found many apartments empty near Cheryl, David, and Eli. When we arrived 9 months ago, no apartments were available for several months. We finally got in touch with a rental agent who told us of an apartment that would be available in mid-October. We visited it, found it fit all our criteria, and signed a lease on October 1. The day after signing the lease, we headed to Northeast Thailand to attend the annual gathering of Christian workers in northern Laos that we helped to establish over 40 years ago. This year, about 200 adults and 100 children attended the event. We traveled from the event to Laos and spent a profitable time reconnecting with friends there. I guess I'll stop and point out the picture in the very bottom left-hand corner. You see the donuts? That's one snack you could choose, but if you don't like the donuts so much, there's deep-fried chicken feet right next to them, so you could also have that. Dave's brother Steve traveled with us. He volunteers with Wycliffe Bible Translators in developing computer software that will greatly increase the efficiency for translating the Bible into new languages. We had anticipated making many trips to Laos this past year, but the complicated process of attaining a long-term visa created obstacles. Now that we have long-term visas, we should be able to visit Laos more frequently. We returned to Bangkok and spent most of the fall setting up our apartment and figuring out how to live in our new environment. We proceeded under the mantra, well, now we know. We could have learned better from our mistakes if we had remembered what we had done wrong. Sadly, it took a few repeats of the mistakes to get things figured out. In December, we traveled again to Northeast Thailand, this time for the graduation ceremony of a Hmong Bible School. This school trains Christian leaders from Vietnam, Laos, and Thailand. Dave was asked to speak at the ceremony relating the Christian history of the Hmong. We loved celebrating Christmas with both of our daughters and their husbands and our youngest grandson. Bangkok goes all out decorating with Christmas trees of all sizes and colors. The Evangelical Church of Bangkok, where we attend regularly, held 2 Christmas Eve celebrations with a total attendance of over 2,000. Come on.
Try pointing it to the front of the, or try pointing it the other way.
This way?
Try pointing it up here, yeah.
Oh. Up here?
To the,
There.
there.
You got it.
Okay, thank you. In late January, our granddaughter Carly and her husband and baby came for a visit. Little Opal was an incredible traveler, allowing us to lug her all over Bangkok. Which,
Well, to the
That way?
machine up there, but you also can point it to the screen.
there we go. Oops. Of course, now it went to.
There.
All right. In early February, Dave traveled to the Philippines with his friend David Fitzstevens. Have you noticed the pattern of Davids so far? And a Vietnamese Christian leader to visit the Asia Pacific Nazarene Theological Seminary. This is the place where both Davids donated their collections of books and other materials on Vietnam and Laos. The seminary plans to establish a Southeast Asian missionary archive with these materials as a base. It was a relief to see that Dave's carefully packed books had safely arrived at their destination.
Weren't there 900 of them?
9,000.
9,000?
No, 5,000, wasn't it?
No, 9,000.
9,000, okay, yeah. And they made it, and we had, if you knew what we were up to last summer, it was just agony over trying to get these books shipped. Sadly, David Fitzstevens and his wife Karen left Bangkok shortly after that. They retired after 40 years in Thailand. They have been good friends and were a great help to us in getting settled in Bangkok. We miss them. Late February brought an unwelcome event when Dave ended up in the hospital for a week, diagnosed with severe anemia from internal bleeding. He had excellent care, and though we haven't been able to find insurance in Thailand, the total expense that included 2 colonoscopies, an endoscopy, 3 blood transfusions, several EKGs, blood draws as frequently as hourly, and the services of 3 doctors came to around $6,000. We hosted our first guest in March, longtime colleague Sylvain from Switzerland, who was on his way to Laos. Our next guests were Dave's sister Jeannie from Port Townsend and her friend Judy. Then we hosted Carolyn Dean, a missionary to Laos, for a few days, and finally the Quisenberries, long-term associates with World Concern. In early April, we received word that Somsanit, a Lao pastor's wife and our closest friend from our early days in Laos, had died. Though we were busy with last-minute preparations for speaking at a retreat, we made an overnight visit to Laos to attend Somsanit's funeral. The following week, we flew to Chiang Mai in northern Thailand to speak at a week-long retreat of a European mission group that works in Laos. We had a great time connecting with this dynamic group of mostly young missionaries. Sorry, page is stuck here. Come on. A few days before returning to the U.S., we attended the annual gathering of the Christian and Missionary Alliance Missionaries in Thailand. Because we had been missionaries of this denomination and had spent a number of those years in Thailand, the group included us. We traveled to a beautiful golf resort 3 hours south of Bangkok and enjoyed a great time of reconnecting with old acquaintances and meeting new friends. A church group from San Diego came to facilitate the event, providing excellent speaker, childcare, worship music, and loading us down with tokens of love. It was an honor to be included in this event and an encouragement to follow the theme of the retreat, flourish. Sorry. Just after a week after we returned to Bangkok, we're scheduled to speak at another retreat, the Gathering of Kama Services Workers in Laos. We served with this organization when we worked with refugees in Thailand after the Vietnam War. The group in Laos is small, but includes people from Brazil, Ecuador, and the Netherlands, in addition to the Americans. Pray that we will recover quickly from jet lag and be prepared for leading this event. For this season of our lives, Bangkok has become a good home for us. We plan to spend another year there before deciding about making it permanent. Whoops.
Carson, can you put it back up?
There.
Okay. From the walkway approaching our apartment, we could look down at the top of this flame tree to watch a mother dove caring for her nest. The monsoon season arrived shortly after she had laid her eggs, and the storms would toss the branch wildly in the wind. Through pounding rain and scorching sun, she remained vigilant. After each storm, we would look out to see if she was still there. Eventually, we couldn't tell whether it was the mother or her squab, and finally, the baby ventured off on her own. This was a picture for me of how the Heavenly Father shelters us under his wings, no matter where we may be or what storms invade our lives. He has been faithful to us through the transitions.
I guess it's my turn now, again. As I mentioned earlier, we have both been surprised at how content we feel in our new circumstances. God has opened up unexpected ministry opportunities that offer us a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Our experiences of God's faithfulness, sorry about that. Our experience of God's faithfulness through the years provided encouragement to others who are just at the beginning of their service. At the same time, their youth and vitality inspires and energizes us. All of us will at some point go through changed circumstances. Let me leave you with Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lead not into on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Now that, I don't know what time you conclude, but I don't want to just end it like this. I enjoy conversation, so I'm opening it to you to ask questions or to straighten us out, if you can. So yeah, that's something I have liked to do, and this time we just dumped on you, so now it's your turn.
Well, what's your health update?
Yeah.
What was the result?
I'm standing here. No, I'm doing very good. I had, when I was in the I had 8 years of consistent 12,000 steps a day. Then I had 2 days of 0 steps. And now I'm back to my 10,000 steps every day. So, yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm doing good. Yeah.
Praise the Lord.
Praise God. Yes, yes. Yes. 8, yeah, yeah. I think it's not as serious as it was then.
Not as serious as it was.
I think they've somewhat recovered from that. I'm not saying that it's not there. It's still there, but it's not nearly as prevalent as it was years ago.
Okay.
Yes, I don't know, I'm not aware of programs that are addressing that, and I haven't heard news about it,
Okay.
so I think it's pretty controlled.
There was quite a big sex workers business.
Yes, yeah. Well, that hasn't changed.
That has not changed.
Yeah.
So that's what our daughter does, she visits bars.
Explain more.
Explain more, okay. Bethany, who's a missionary with the Christian and Missionary Alliance, she and her husband, part of her work is with Rahab, which is working with women in the red light district. And not just the sex workers, but all of the people that are involved in that industry, the people that serve the food and clean the houses and all of that. So she works with them once a week. It's still huge.
Which hospital were you in?
I was at the Seventh-day Adventist Hospital, Mission Hospital, where the prices are a bit more affordable. Yeah, it's hard to get insurance when you're overseas. I like to tell the story. Gene found a place that would insure us anywhere overseas, and full health insurance for only $3,000 a month per person. There are implications when you get older. Nobody wants to insure you. So far we're self-insured, and we can, if something comes up, we can come back, if we can come back to the States and take advantage of health, Medicare, but we can't use that overseas. So anyhow, yeah.
Your daily life, just every day, I mean, when you're not on these missions, or do you have any days when you're not on mission trips, so?
What's our daily life?
We don't have a daily life routine.
Yeah.
Every day it is different, but, well, Dave walks to 7-Eleven.
We do have a routine, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
go ahead.
We do have a routine. So every morning at 6 o'clock, I walk to 7-Eleven and get a small loaf of raisin bread and a banana and some coffee, and walk back. It's a half an hour walk along the lake, beside the lake. So, and then that's how we start our day. And then when we first got there, we would go down to Bangkok 3 or 4 times a week, which, I mean, we live in Bangkok, but getting to downtown takes an effort, and we're now down to 2 or 3 times a week. It's just, we like the quietness where we live. We live in a gated compound that is just very pleasant, very quiet, and it's not the cheapest place to live, but it's affordable because we get some income from renting our house here. Yeah.
In Bangkok, you count on doing about one thing a day because it takes so long to get anywhere. So if we have an errand in town, that's what you do that day.
That's what we do, yeah.
And, we don't sit around at home. You would think we'd have lots of time, but the things just seem to fill.
Is there very much high crime rate or anything like that? What's the crime rate compared to U.S.?
That's a very good question. It's far, far less than U.S. Very, comparatively speaking, very low crime rate. So here's an example. There's a mall that has a food court with, many vendors. You can pick what you want, and it's really cheap to eat there. So we can get a meal for less than $1, a full meal. And so it's always full of people. But people will reserve their tables by leaving an umbrella. I've seen number of people leave their wallets on the tables while they go around the thing and order their food. I mean, do we do that here? So yeah, the crime is quite low in Bangkok. It's not that it doesn't exist, but it's quite a safe place.
Is the media, is there a lot of, cell phones and?
Oh, yes, yes.
I'm sure that's.
Yes.
Always.
It's yes, everybody has, well, the other, several unique things that I notice in Bangkok. You know, we have Amazon, all this, what do you call it?
Ordering online.
The service,
Yeah.
delivery service.
Yeah.
The traffic is overwhelmed with delivery service. Trucks, cars, motorcycles, all delivering something to somebody. Well, the other thing is, the culture there, people do not cook their own food. That's not done in Bangkok. It's either order in or eat out. That's it. And you don't, a Thai home, you never get invited to their home to eat. You go to a restaurant to eat with them.
That's in the city.
This is in Bangkok, yeah. The rest of the country, it's different. Out in the country, it's different. But in the Bangkok, it's not something that, you go to the apartments, many apartments do not have kitchens. If they do, they have very small kitchens. So the culture is different. It takes some adjustment to us.
And
So
we
I'll
had,
ask the question, do you cook your own food then, or what?
rarely,
Okay.
Really, yes.
a couple
Yes.
times a week usually. Yeah. I see a lot of people looking happy about that.
When did you start your mission work?
Well, this time we went there, well, we first started in what year?
1975.
1975. We went, in 1975, we went to Thailand to work in development work in northeast Thailand. And after, we thought we had a 2-year contract. Just tell us a little bit of the story. After the year was up, like I said, we thought we had a 2-year, and they said, you're finished, you'll go home now. And Jean was pregnant with our first child, and they said, you need to go home quickly so you can give birth in the U.S. And we weren't ready to go back yet. So we negotiated with another organization. Meantime, while we're there, refugee camps started developing in Thailand for refugees from Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. And we contacted Kama Services, and we had some connection with them. And it took them 2 months to onboard us. In the meantime, our daughter was born, and then we worked with them, so we switched to another organization. We kept our same, the other thing is, we stayed in the same house in northeast Thailand, but their subsidy for housing was totally different than the previous organization. So I went to the landlord and I said, we need to move because we can't afford it. He says, how much can you afford? And I gave him a figure less than half that we were paying, which included the utilities. And he says, okay, I want you to stay. So we stayed there for another 5 years. Again, you know, God works in mysterious ways, doesn't he? And we got to benefit from some of that. It was very good.
What religions are there? Is there a national religion?
The-
And how are you accepted as Christians?
Thailand is primarily a Buddhist country, and there's freedom of religion, and Christianity is still very, very small, less than 1% of the population. But there are churches there, quite a number of churches, but it's still just, Thailand needs more people sharing faith because of like I said, the primary religion is Buddhism.
What is the main resistance to Christianity?
I'm not sure. I don't know that there's a lot of resistance as such. It's just that apathy. Yeah, they're comfortable. They don't want to change. That's, yeah.
And the Buddhism is so much a part of their culture that to be Thai is to be Buddhist, so it's tied up in
It's part of
their
their
identity.
Yeah, their identity. Yeah. And so Christianity kind of disrupts the identity. And so, we seek ways that we can engage them where they are. And I've been part of a conversation group of reaching Buddhists. I know one woman that we know in Laos. She is serving there as a missionary, but she has a Buddhist priest that is mentoring her on Buddhism. So she meets with him once a week, so she can understand the mindset of the people that she's serving. I find that very inspiring. We need to talk to the people where they are. So yeah, we have a lot to learn.
And you sort of asked about where we began. When we spoke at this small group retreat, they gave us 5 days with about 3 hours per day to tell our story. So if you want us to start,
that was only 15 hours.
We should be done by Friday.
Yeah.
But you could list the countries that you've been a missionary in. I mean, people don't know.
Oh
that.
yeah, okay. So we started in Thailand, working primarily in the refugee camps, and then we were burned out. That was 5 years working in the refugee camps. That totally. The first year I worked there, I drove the truck 100,000 kilometers. What's that? About 65,000 miles or something like that. In addition to flying, taking the train, taking the bus, I was constantly on the move. So after 5 years, our hearts were with these refugees. They were suffering, and so we were just giving it all out to the refugees. And after 5 years, we came back to the States, totally burnt out. And the mission said that they would support us for a year, but I said, this is a little bit my story, but I said, no, we're not working for you, so we don't need your support. And it seems like a dumb thing to do, but we went to Kansas where Jean's mother was, and I got a call. We'd been there a week. I got a call from this guy, can we have lunch? So I went to have lunch with him. He says, I'm pastoring a small church here, and somebody suggested that you could take it over. And we prayed about it, and okay, I agreed to take over that church. Some people are into church planning. My experience is, I'm into church burying. I pastored that church for a year and then called the district super. I said, this is not working. We're not growing, and we need to close it down. He says, well, I don't disagree with you. You can close it down, but we can support you for another 6 months. Again, in my ignorance, I said, no, I'm not working for you, so don't pay me. And a week after that, I get a call from an organization, World Concern in Seattle, asking if I would be willing to open an office for them in Laos. Well, that's where I wanted to work. And it was really what I wanted to do, but they said, can we have an answer in 3 days? I said, can you give me 10 days? Because we want to know. So for 10 days, Jean and I were praying for, and I talked to one pastor. He said, ask God to give you a word from his word to show you what to do. And so that was our prayer. At the end of 10 days, I did not have that word. But that's what I wanted to do. So I called World Concern. I said, yes, we will do it. That day, I read in Isaiah the verse that says, whether you turn to the right or to the left, you will hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. That was an affirmation of what we had decided to do. I called my mother to tell her that we had decided to go to Laos. And before I could say anything else, she said, God gave me a verse for you. It just happened to be the same verse. So the other part of the story, we needed that affirmation because after I called, they said, okay, you need to come to Seattle for orientation in November. Okay, so, and they said, come with your bags because you need to go to, just you, to Malaysia for the Asia directors meeting for all of Asia, to go to Malaysia. So at the end of that gathering, they said, well, your visa hasn't come, so go back to Kansas. I said, so I go back there and wait for the visa. They said, yes. I said, if I'm just waiting, then you'll provide me support. Oh, they said, that means we pay you. I said, well, if you want me to be ready immediately, then I would expect you to. And they said, okay, we can do that. So the first month for payment was December. First week of January, I get a letter from World Concern saying, if you received the check and cashed it, send the money back. If you haven't cashed it, send the check back. So I called my friend who was vice president. I said, I thought we had an agreement. He said, we do have an agreement, and I will correct that for you. So then at the end of February, so it started in December. The end of February, they said, would you be willing to go to Kenya for up to 6 months? I said, sure. While we wait, I don't mind. And then at the end of March, they said, your visa might be coming through, so cancel the Kenya trip. No, I'm not a very patient person, just in case you're interested. Ask Gene. And then finally at the end of June, I was just totally out of it. I could not, it was too much. I called them and said, please let me go to Bangkok and try to get the visa myself in Thailand. So they called the area director for World Concern, and he said, definitely not. They must get their visa in the US. And then it was, like I said, it was beyond me. At the end of June, I called him again. I said, I can't take this anymore. Why will it cost you any more to send me to Bangkok than to keep supporting me in the US as I wait? Just send me to Bangkok and let me try. And so he happened to be a friend, and he said, okay. So I went to Bangkok, showed up at the, first thing I did, showed up at the World Concern office. The Asia area director said, who are you? And I told him. He threw his keys down and said, I told them not to let you come. That was my welcome to Bangkok. Within a week, I had a visa, and within 10 days, I was in Laos. And so things worked out, but anyhow, that was how we got to Laos. Then after 10 years, I was invited to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the director said, you have done some good work. The Lao people really appreciate what you have done for them. You will leave this country in 24 hours. I was kicked out of Laos. And that October 19, 1992 was the saddest day of my life, just to get kicked out of Laos. And I went out, and I didn't tell anybody, but I said to myself, I am not going back to Laos unless they formally invite me back. I was so angry and so upset at leaving. And World Concern sent me to Vietnam to see if I could work there. I decided I could not because most of the money came from the US government, and we had rejected that for Laos. And so I wanted to be consistent and said I couldn't. But before I could tell them I would not work in Vietnam, they said, would you consider working in Mongolia? I said, where's that? And we ended up working in Mongolia for 5 years. And then, the other, where we've served. So while we were in Mongolia, that was the pinnacle of my career, but that's another story. While we were there, at least 50% of the letters we received from Jean's mother had written on them, missent to Malaysia. The post office didn't know there was such a place as Mongolia. And so after Mongolia, we moved to Malaysia so that we could receive letters from Jean's mother. That isn't why, but we went there to serve at a school. And at that point, her mother stopped writing, so it didn't help. But anyhow, our last place of assignment was in Malaysia. And then we moved back here to be near my mother. Anyhow, that was a long story, sorry. But it's not 15 hours, so.
So I think that's...
Yeah, so, yeah, we don't want to keep dumping on. Go ahead, one more.
Can you tell us about Mongolia, how that was the pinnacle of your...
Okay, yeah, that was, I was asked to, several different mission and Christian development organizations were meeting together about opening a program in Mongolia where mission agencies come together and they collaborate together. They do not go there with their name. They create a new organization which is collaborating together, and they called it Joint Christian Services for Mongolia. And they asked me to go be the first executive director of this organization that they had just set up. And there are only 5 of these in the whole world, which I think is a shame. But anyhow, I'm very prejudiced. I think that's the way to do mission work. We don't have to be Baptist. We don't have to be Christian Missionary Alliance. We don't have to be World Concern. we can work together to serve the kingdom of God. I get enthusiastic about this because I'm prejudiced. I think this is what we need more of, but it doesn't work. And one reason why it doesn't work, it's a lot easier to raise money for your own name than for something else. But anyhow, don't get me. So I set that up. One of the things I found is that I can start things. Don't ask me to take over things. You may have something running, I take it over and it just falls apart. But I can get things started. And that was really a good experience. And you can tell my passion for that. Yeah.
So tell how the church grew.
Oh yeah. So the other thing is, I got to be in Mongolia. When we arrived in Mongolia, this was January 1993, there were not 200 believers in the whole country. It had just started to open up to Christianity. When we left 5 years later, there were over 10,000 followers of Christ in Mongolia. I'm not saying that I had anything to do with that, but I got to be in a country when it first came to Jesus. Wow, anyhow, I'm dumping all this excitement on you, so sorry about that. We've had a good time, a good career, and yeah, Jean is someone that all of her high school and college friends thought, here's one person that will settle down in a comfortable house with a white picket fence around it and never leave. And we'd come back to the States and they said, where are you from? Where are you working? And so, but she has helped us to thrive. So it's been really good. Anyhow, we've spent a lot of your time, so thank you.
One question,
What-
Jean, tell us about Mongolia.
Oh yeah.
Your feeling about it at first.
At first? Yeah, that was definitely a different experience for me. That was the hardest place that we lived, and probably the hardest time of my life. So I won't go into all of that. That would take a long time. But yeah, if you want more stories about that, you can see me later. It was not the same experience.
Thank you so much for allowing us to be with you this morning.
Well, thank you all for coming to the service today, everybody, all the regulars and all the guests and stuff. And thank you for the music contributions the young folks gave too. Thank you very much, Dave and Jean, for your discussions of all of your missionary work. We always love having you here. And thank you for our guests who are here today. And Dak